No one knows for sure when it all started, but the trail can be traced slowly from the way Jungkook began to build his solo identity since the era of Seven and Standing Next to You. In the public eye, it was just plain promotion, but to industry insiders, it was a subtle signal that Jungkook was rewriting the concept of how a Korean idol could survive on the global stage without losing its essence. When Hybe announced a surprise statement, the key phrase was not about the new project, but about the adjustment of the creative direction. The vague sentence actually caused a storm of interpretation. Many considered Hybe as giving Jungkook full space to lead his own musical direction, something that is rarely given by large companies in Korea. But what does this move mean for BTS? Let's pull the thread in length. Since BTS went on a temporary hiatus to focus on individual activities, Jungkook is the fastest penetrating member in the global market. He became the face of Calvin Klein, appeared on American talk shows without the intermediary of translators, and got into mainstream radio playlists with artists such as Jack Harlow and Latto. But behind all that, there is something greater than mere achievement: independence. Jungkook began writing songs, producing music, and even arranging his own visual concepts. When all this happens, Jungkook and Hybe's relationship slowly changes from being mere artists to strategic partners. According to some Korean entertainment analysts, Hybe's move this time is an official recognition of Jungkook's individual dominance in the global industry. But on the other hand, rumors arose. Was Hybe actually worried about losing control of her largest asset? Since his debut, Jungkook has been known not only for his voice or performance, but for his keen professional instincts. He is often referred to as the visual CEO, because despite his youth, he knows exactly how to navigate the world stage with a clean, global, and relevant image. He understands timings, reads trends, and is always one step ahead. And so, when Hybe finally issued an official statement, many felt, this is no coincidence. This is a move the result of long negotiations, perhaps even months, between Jungkook and the executive team. Behind the scenes, there was reportedly a large internal meeting where Jungkook presented his vision for a future project that no longer relies entirely on the boy group format. Imagine, an idol who used to be just called maknae now sits in line with the company's board of directors, determining the future direction of BTS as a global brand. But interestingly, the reaction of BTS members was actually warm. Jimin, for example, is said to have shed tears upon hearing this news not out of sadness, but out of pride. Taehyung even wrote a cryptic comment on the Weverse platform. I knew this move was coming. From what it looks like, beyond the shock of the public, the members actually knew full well that Jungkook was destined to do something different. Fans around the world responded with wild theories. Some thought Jungkook would set up a sub-unit label under Hybe. Some are sure that he is preparing a global project with famous Western musicians. But one common thread remains the same. Hybe finally admits that Jungkook is no longer just a part of BTS. He is a new pillar that can move the company's wheels independently. The move also changed the industry's perspective. In the past, idols were only considered the face of the agency. Now, through Jungkook, they can become an autonomous force that sets the direction of their own careers. No wonder the Korean media called this event the moment of Jungkook's revolution. It all feels monumental, like opening a new chapter in K-pop history. But what amazed the public the most was not just his courage, but the way he did it. Quietly, strategically, and meaningfully. He didn't say much, didn't make a sensation, but when the move was announced, the whole world heard. Hybe may have signed the statement, but the narrative clearly Jungkook's. But what exactly does the statement contain? Broadly speaking, Hybe announced that Jungkook would be taking independent direction in the production and distribution of his international projects, a formal sentence that seemed calm, but was actually loaded with political and business significance. That means Hybe officially gives Jungkook autonomy to organize music releases and global collaborations without the full intervention of central management. In the context of the K-pop industry, this is almost unprecedented. As a rule, the agency controls all processes from the concept, song, even the release schedule. But now, Jungkook is the first example of an artist under Hybe's umbrella who has independent creative status. Some observers call it the K-pop version of Elon Musk's movement because of its visionary nature and daring to break out of old traditions. But behind all that euphoria, there is a much more complicated internal dynamic. At Hybe headquarters, this step is referred to as a big, thoughtful risk. Why? Because giving complete freedom to one artist can change the balance of power in an industry that has been so hierarchical. But Hybe seems to be aware that Jungkook isn't just an idol, he's a global asset who has more influence than many smaller labels in Korea. With over 100 million cross-platform followers, his every move could move the market. Therefore, this step is also seen as a form of adaptation of Hybe to a new era, an era in which artists are no longer subordinates, but equal business partners. In its history, only a handful of names have ever earned this kind of position: G-Dragon at YG, IU at EDAM, and now Jungkook at Hybe. The difference is that Jungkook did this in the middle of BTS's active period, not after. It makes this step even bolder. On the other hand, the fans did not remain silent. They went through every detail, finding that since the beginning of 2025, Jungkook has indeed begun to sign direct cooperation with global partners such as Universal Music Group for international music distribution. That reinforces allegations that Hybe's statement was just the tip of the iceberg of lengthy negotiations that have been running quietly for a year. Many are asking, what is the impact for BTS in the future? Actually, there's nothing to worry about. In fact, this step opens up a great opportunity because Jungkook can now bridge BTS with the outside world without administrative restrictions. He could become the global face of the group as well as a symbol of new independence in the Korean entertainment industry. That is why, although surprising, this move by Hybe marks precisely the point of maturity of the relationship between the company and the artist. It's no longer just about contracts, it's about a shared vision. And come to think of it, wasn't that the essence of BTS's journey from the beginning? Build something that transcends the system, but remains rooted in the same values: honesty, hard work, and the courage to take risks. So when the world looks at Jungkook today, they don't just see an idol. They see a symbol of a small revolution in the Asian entertainment industry, a revolution that began with one simple statement: Hybe gives complete freedom. But for Jungkook, freedom is not a gift. It was the result of consistency, discipline, and the belief that he was not born to go with the flow, but to create a new wave. The funny thing is that although the world considers Jungkook's step, this time, unexpected, in fact, all the tracks leading to that moment have been prepared for a long time. It's just that the public never really paid attention to it. Let's pull the thread to a few years earlier, right after BTS started going on a hiatus phase to focus on individual projects. At that time, most people thought Jungkook would only release a solo album and then return to a group format. But it turns out he used that time not just to experiment, but to build a system. Yes, the system. Because behind his seemingly simple work, Jungkook always works in a very measured pattern, almost like an architect designing the foundation of a building. He began to recruit his own creative team, visual designers, producers, to international communications managers. One by one, he gathered people who were not only talented, but also savvy with him. According to reports from Korean entertainment media, the team even has a different work schedule than Hybe's structure. They operate across time zones, Seoul, Los Angeles, and Tokyo, because Jungkook really wants to marry three music cultures at once: K-pop, Western pop, and Japanese visual culture. This means that long before Hybe announced its official statement, Jungkook had already built an independent ecosystem. That is why, as soon as the official permission is given, everything immediately moves like a machine that has long been ready to run. There is no long transition period, no many months of adjustment, because everything was prepared quietly, disciplined, and full of strategy. Some insiders even said Jungkook's next global project will involve collaborations with 3 Grammy producers who previously rejected working with K-pop idols for reasons of commercialization. But when they found out Jungkook was fully involved in the production process, they immediately agreed. This proves that Jungkook's reputation in the music professional world has gone beyond the limits of idol. He is no longer just the face of the group, but a true creator respected by the world's professionals. But on the other hand, this step also shows Hybe's courage to change. Usually, major agencies in Korea have a tendency to maintain total control over their artists. But this time, they were willing to relinquish some of the power, only to realize Jungkook's power was too great to curb. It was like admitting that the star was already able to stand on her own stage without the need for a handle. And here comes the paradox. This seemingly unexpected step is actually the result of very careful, long planning. Jungkook knows exactly when to shut up, when to work, and when to change the course of the game. He waits patiently, making sure everything is ripe, only then explodes the moment at the most strategic time. It would not be an exaggeration for Korean media to refer to this move as Jungkook's silent operation. Because it's true. There were no signs, no rumors. But as soon as it was announced, the whole industry shook. Even financial analysts in Seoul noted that Hybe shares rose significantly during the first 48 hours after the statement, as the market assessed this move as a brilliant business strategy. But of course, the biggest effect is not on numbers, but on public perception. The world now sees Jungkook not just as part of the system, but as the creator of the new system itself. He managed to balance 2 poles that had seemed contradictory so far: freedom and loyalty. He remains part of BTS, but also stands alone as a global force. And perhaps therein lies the genius of his move. Jungkook never chose one side. He created a third that never existed before. When we talk about the relationship between artists and agencies in the K-pop industry, the narrative is usually simple. Artists work, agencies organize. But Jungkook and Hybe's case is an exception. They are no longer just colleagues, but strategic partners in the most modern sense. Since the beginning of BTS's debut, Jungkook was known as Big Hit's golden boy, not because he was treated special, but because he showed extraordinary dedication to the company's vision. He was often the first person to come to the studio and the last to go home. Even as the group achieved global success, Jungkook remained involved in every detail of the production, from poster color selection, stage lighting, to merchandise design. In an internal interview, one of Hybe's producers once said, "She's not just a singer. He understands the whole process, from idea to execution." And maybe from there, the seeds of this unique relationship started to grow. Over the years, Hybe learned that Jungkook was not an artist who could be directed unilaterally. He has a strong business sense and vision. So instead of opposing it, Hybe chose to make it part of a big decision. Many don't know, but reportedly, since 2023, Jungkook has been involved in the company's annual strategy meeting, although not in a formal executive capacity. That's a rare move, because usually the artist only gets a report, not a direction. But Hybe sees something bigger. The future of BTS and the company itself may only survive if they are able to adapt to Jungkook's fast-paced, global, and digital native way of working. That is why Hybe's official statement is not only a form of support, but also an open recognition that Jungkook is an irreplaceable strategic asset. Beyond that, their relationship is now more like a creative alliance rather than a boss-subordinate system. Hybe provides the infrastructure. Jungkook provides the direction. Hybe gives resources, Jungkook gives vision. An ideal symbiosis, and perhaps the only one among large Korean agencies. But of course, this journey to balance is not always smooth. In some moments, tension arises, especially when Jungkook began to be active in the Western market and brought a freer approach. Some senior executives at Hybe were said to be concerned the move could obscure the identity of the group. But the result was exactly the opposite. Jungkook's presence on the global stage strengthened BTS's brand and lifted Hybe's image in the eyes of the world. After that, their relationship is no longer in the form of control, but collaboration. In a 2024 interview, an entertainment analyst called Jungkook the most perfect product of the Hybe 2.0 era, a generation of artists who not only perform, but also think like creative leaders. Perhaps this is the reason why Hybe's statement this time felt so big impact. Because symbolically, it marks a paradigm shift in the Korean entertainment industry. From a top-down system to a collaborative system, from control to partnership. And the main figure behind that transformation is Jungkook, the golden mean, who has now grown into a global strategic figure.